Our fifth nominee for Game of the Year is also one of the biggest surprises of the year.
They made one of the best games that I've played, and they're my friends. It's fucking weird.
Hotline Miami is a striking blend of fast ultra-violence, a dense, challenging story, and brilliant presentation.
It was supposed to be a great game for a very select few people.
We made a game for us too. Like, we wanted the game we couldn't buy.
They're sitting there among giants, game after game that had $500 million budgets.
All you have to do is watch just a minute of it and you'll be like, what the F.
I can't pretend to have known the magic that was about to happen to Devolver and to Dennaton. One of the projects that came our way through an indie pitch was Cocaine Cowboys from Cactus.
I just went online to make games. It was a lot of fun, like showing your games to people online and getting feedback. So yeah, that's how Cactus was born.
We started working on another game, like a zombie simulator.
Yeah.
But we scrapped it. So we started looking through all of like your unfinished games. And you showed me Super Carnage and I loved it.
I killed the aborted beaver. First time I heard Hotline Miami, those words were actually well into development. Originally the game was called Cocaine Cowboys.
Oh shit. It was a long time ago.
We watched the movie Cocaine Cowboys like months before we started working on the game.
Miami was the most dangerous place on earth.
It seemed like a perfect set for the kind of game we wanted to make.
And we grew up with all these like movies, like Miami Vice, stuff like that. So for us, it's a cool setting. It's badass.
We were excited. Everybody liked the name a lot. We thought that was a really strong name.
When that became a little weird because there was a movie, a documentary already named that, we talked a little about with Jonathan Dennison, you know, what would be a good name for the game they were making now.
They had decided to change the name to Hotline Miami.
I think they told me we were having beers or something like that, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be Hotline Miami. At first I was like, Hotline Miami sounds like a porn flick or something like that. But so does Final Fantasy, so.
The first time I personally played Hotline Miami was at my home. I remember my daughter like totally making fun of me, like busting in and just seeing me rocking out playing this game. She was totally just, Mom, Dad's having a rave in his office right now.
Had you shown that to 12-year-old Nigel, I might have just passed out right there.
I was having beer at Jonathan's place, and he was like, you wanna try the new game that me and Dennis are gonna do? And he showed me a couple of levels, and it was like, I got furious right away because it was so hard.
That first time I only got to play it for like 2 hours, so I died, 4,000 times.
The difficulty in Hotline Miami is core to the experience. It forces you to pay attention, keeps you in this state of adrenaline high.
I grew up playing like big budget games, and it was cool to like play a game that was like nothing I'd ever played ever.
Just the way the music flows with the gameplay and the weirdness of the story and the juxtaposition of the violence.
It just made you feel dirty, kind of uneasy.
It was like you had to have the fucking fix, like, and then you know that they were onto something.
They want you to feel fucking dirty, you should. And they want you to question, like, what the fuck is it that I'm doing in here? And why does it feel so good?
The whole idea was pretty much making the most violent game ever.
Violence is a huge and unmistakable part of Hotline Miami. I don't know, people have pontificated that because it's basic graphics, that it's like the Hitchcock effect, where your mind starts to fill in the blanks from the things you don't see.
It cares about the details, but it doesn't care about the level of fidelity. The beauty of that is it leaves a lot of room for imagination.
And it's important, I think, part of the effect and the story these guys wanted to tell.
So when we made Hotline Miami One, like the first demo that we put together, which just basically rooms, the enemies, yeah, the AI and everything kind of worked right away. And we have tweaked it, of course, but we had like the core gameplay quite early. and it was super fun. I think that made us feel like we wanted to keep on working on it.
This game came from an old prototype I made. The first time I made it was like 2004, I think.
Why is he naked?
You were supposed to get points for like starting levels without weapons or clothes.
By the time we got to see Hotline Miami, it was well enough along where there's, like I said, there's some gameplay loop there. Like you could see the fun, you could see where it was going stylistically. We kind of said, hey, Jonathan, we want to be a part of this. This could be our kind of first foray into indie games, if you will, outside of the Serious Sam series. You know, it's changed the way Devolver works, and I think it's changed a lot of how indie developers can work with a larger partner to kind of get out there and be seen.
As far as my experience in handling indies and working with indies, I was buddies with this pen and paper artist in high school that ended up being an art intern for $5 an hour for these guys in Shreveport, Louisiana, that ended up being id Software. I watched these guys go from, you know, a few guys making Wolfenstein in their underwear to 6 guys making Doom in 6 months to, you know, ballooning up to 13 people for Quake.
The first game we made in my apartment.
No pants.
Yeah,
Sitting on the couch.
It's been a very intimate
Yeah.
way of working. It's almost like you're a couple.
Yeah.
At least for the first one, it was really like that.
Sometimes, you know, when they're in my studio working, you hear them like, oh, we should do this. Yeah, that's fucking cool. And maybe if we do this, yeah, we gotta do that. Okay, I'll do this, you do that. Okay, and then they're quiet and they sit for like 4 hours and do it. These guys are actually onto something. Like they were so different. Their energies were really different. But the thing that they were making was sort of clicking.
Well, when it comes to aesthetics, I think we think the same way.
Yeah.
When people saw the game, they immediately said it's a cactus game, and that's also one of the reasons I wanted to work with him, because all of his games are so beautiful. Like he's more into the depth of the game, like the meaning behind it, the story, that kind of weird Lynchy vibe to it, and I'm more towards the gameplay. How does the player think? We worked on everything together.
Yeah. We discuss everything before we do anything.
I mean, it's a very isolating thing to be an indie developer. It's not like a business dealing with a business. It is literally just humans dealing with each other.
I was running out of money. I had to borrow money from my dad to pay the rent for the last 2 months, I think, of development time.
I was super depressed during the first game because of my breakup, which was really rough on me. So a lot of that is in the game. Like the whole situation with Jacket and the girl, it's kind of based around that. And I actually made a lot of the sprites in is it called?
Institutionalized?
Yeah, an award. So I wasn't allowed to go out for 2 weeks. Especially with the relationship with the characters. Special to design the apartment and how it changes was very personal. Because my apartment was, for a long time, just shit. I didn't care about it, and then met a girl that I wanted to be like. She wanted to be at my house, and I wanted her to be there. So I started trying to tidy it up, and that's kind of what Jacket does. I like when you don't have that much to work with. It's like when you make music and you have a keyboard that can make pretty much any sound. You just fiddle with all the sounds and you never actually create a tune or something. So I'm using GameMaker's in-game graphic editor.
We didn't make a big design decision that sort of shaped the game. It was all fine-tuning, like the rough stuff we had from the beginning, and then fine-tuning that. It sort of just came out organically, like we started putting pieces there. We wanted to feel like strange. We wanted to create the mystery around it.
We came up with some kind of, you should just have like a normal mask. In the beginning it was gonna have like more like clowns and maybe a Jason mask, stuff like that. But then I was thinking about, I have a phobia for animals acting as humans. I think it comes from some kind of childhood memory of like Alice in Wonderland and the wind in the willows. So I was thinking, what would be the scariest thing to meet in an alley? It would be like a chicken with a baseball bat. And it's kind of cool also because when he puts on the mask, he becomes an animal. An animal are not responsible for their own actions. They kill because it's natural.
Yeah, it was like keep everyone on edge for like figuring out why is he getting these weird phone messages. Just giving them small snippets of storyline and implying most of it instead of telling it directly.
That soundtrack, man. First time I played, that's definitely what got me. You put those headphones on, you get in there, and it really does transport you.
They were just dicking around on Bandcamp, trying to find cool music from like unknown artists.
I think Moon was one of the first we added, right?
Yeah, Moon and Perturbate.
Yeah.
I'd never licensed any music before. I was 15 or 16 years old, still in high school. I'd basically just made 4 tracks, put them on the internet, and somebody wanted to put them in their video game.
These tracks not only work with the game, the kind of aesthetic, audio aesthetic of the game, but with individual levels. They have something that they want to do on that level that they want to get across. So they're doing it visually, they're doing it with the level design, and they're doing it with the music.
It had to have a certain BPM, sort of not making the hearts beat faster.
Almost like a trance.
I mean, you got your blood pumped up. I mean, you kick in the fucking door, guns blazing. But it was also like kind of cool and melancholic at the same time.
When I made those, I was in a really bad place. I definitely think that at that time, that was a huge influence on the kind of stuff that I was making. It was very like angry, very aggressive, and very dark.
They put one of my songs, Daisuke, Whenever You Visit Clerk, which is based off of me, Beard, as he's known on the internet. I was flattered. I always cried because, you know, I don't know, it's emotional now too, actually.
Every review and article would mention the soundtrack. I mean, these were 4 tracks that I made on stereo speakers in my mom's basement.
Music has a huge, huge part of Hotline Miami. It won a lot of awards just for the music alone.
Like, I don't know if you can overestimate how important it's been to the success of the game.
Like, the feedback and the sort of audience that I've got from it has been most of the reason that I've continued to make music.
It's this community of collaboration and cooperation with these guys that they really are just trying to help each other out. The passion that it sparked inside our team, and as we met these guys and started talking to other little teams like that, it really didn't matter to us how big it was. We were hooked.
There were 2 moments in when I think the team at Devolver knew something was very different about this game. The first was it got shown at an event called Rezzed in the UK.
Yes, what did we see today, Matt?
Hotline Miami. You haven't heard of it yet? Hear of it now.
And it won Game of the Show. Sorry, I'm like, because I just, give me a second.
Like, holy shit, people are buying this game.
Yeah. It was weird.
It's still weird.
Yeah. I still haven't felt like I've done anything special.
No.
I knew it was good, and they were sort of anxious about it. No one's gonna buy it.
It was nominated for IGN Game of the Year. And by then we knew it was very successful. It was great. But what happened is we get there and they had a booth for every nominee. If I remember correctly, I think it was like Mass Effect 2, a Halo game after game that had $500 million budgets, like including marketing, just these insane budgets, right? From teams of 300 from around the world. And then there's Dennis and Jonathan and our team just kind of off to the side, but they're just sitting there among giants.
I think a cool feeling.
Yeah.
Standing between, I think it was Mass Effect. We had a booth next to Mass Effect or something. This is the game we want to make and we are super proud of it, and it was kind of natural to be nominated. It was like, yeah, because we worked really hard and it is a good game.
And then it came out and the reviews hit and it started getting 10s. Another 10 hit and a 9 and a 10, and it's just getting these incredible reviews, like things that were just taking the big games of the time and just casting them aside.
People really like the game, but it's sort of becomes very hard to take it personally. It still feels like I farted and somehow it turned into something amazing for people, but I can't take any credit for it, really.
It was a thing of joy and also a thing of weirdness. It wasn't like... It was more a relief, I would say. Yeah, a relief. Like, the game's good, people buy it. We can, you know, keep doing this now.
I get 3 letters a day, it feels like, just because I have money and I don't open the letters and I get anxiety from not opening the letters. I just want to have the money so I can feel like I can do what I usually do without having to worry.
But society like really pushes you to spend money, to earn money.
And it's really hard to feel bad about it because you know you're privileged to be in this situation, but in the same time I don't like my life more now than I did before the game. I kind of like it less.
Yeah.
I can't feel sorry for myself. I feel like I'm an asshole for not taking responsibility for my life. But I don't know what to do about it. It's just a natural thing that I do, and it wasn't supposed to be a big game. It was supposed to be a great game for a very select few people.
For us.
Yeah.
We made a game for us too. Like, we wanted the game we couldn't buy.
The amount of inspiration that has sprung forth from Hotline. People are making art inspired by this game. People are making really in-depth short films and animated films, and I've never seen quite this level of fan participation and creating really like art you would want to hang in your house.
Yeah, but it's so cool to see that your design of a character can be so interesting to people. Because Jackie is kind of boring character. In a way.
He's not boring, he's the perfect character because he doesn't have a personality, so you can put yourself into him, and I like that.
I realized that I had actually given people the first and the only real connection between the pixels and a mental picture of what it actually might look like. I couldn't sit down and like put on some, you know, ambient music or something like that. I had to like, you know, drink a lot of coffee and get into the different state of mind, sort of like, you know, I had to be, you know, that force that Hotline Miami is. And that has continued into my art since that time.
It's woken up some dark things in a lot of artists around the world.
You don't have to do this. No, no, no!
You guys have made a lot of indie games. You've been making games a long time. This is your first title that's, you know, out there and being sold on Steam.
I think Hotline Miami One was one of the first games that really showed me like you can make something that's really cool and true to yourself. You don't have to make a game that you feel you are pandering to the market, and you can still be really successful with it.
What Hotline Miami did, at least in my eyes, is prove that you can be someone like Cactus, someone that has done something by themselves, really away from the mainstream. And if you want to bring something to a larger audience and you want to get it out there, you can work with a partner. It's okay. And you still maintain 100% creative control of it, and you don't have to sacrifice anything.
It kind of just represents like what's kind of possible. Like, you can make a game that sells 2 million copies with a small budget, with 2 people, just because like you have a good idea and you are willing to put in the work.
I mean, if you just love what you're doing, you don't really need 1,000 people to do it for you.
At some point in the conversation, it became apparent that Jonathan, and I guess Dennis too, both imagined that Devolver was this corporation in America with our names on the side of a building and like a receptionist and an accounting department and like a latte station.
The whole publisher thing was a bit scary. I think talked a lot about it. It's a scary word. It's almost like synonymous with Satan.
And when they found out that Nigel was like, no, dude, we're basically you. I mean, really what Devolver is about checking our egos and remembering that we don't actually make these games. And as soon as we start to think we're so smart is when we're fucked. Apparently that was a pretty crucial moment in the relationship, because that was when Jonathan was just like, Devolver!
I worked in more corporate areas of the video game industry, and people are trying to analyze what works. It doesn't. You can't analyze it. It's a spiritual thing, but people are like, oh, spiritual, you fucking hippie. Fuck you, man.
Nigel and Graham, our man in London, both wanted this game so badly that they threw down their personal owings that the company owed them to make sure that we would sign it, because it was kind of iffy. When they changed from Cocaine Cowboys to Hotline Miami, they lost some internal support at Devolver.
Breaking out of obscurity is really hard right now if you're an indie developer starting out.
There's more than enough games to play, and they're coming at the consumers at an incredible rate, at incredible discounts. You've got to stand out.
So the difference between Hotline Miami 1 and Hotline Miami 2 is, at face value, they're very similar. It's the same basic formulas. They had this kind of narrative in the first game that was very mysterious, very dark, and it focused on more or less one character. And with Hotline Miami 2, the big difference is there's a large cast, and these are all intersecting paths. And all of these characters in Hotline Miami 2 were affected by the events of the first game. And you're playing characters that either are copycat murderers or affected because they lost a loved one or a father in the first game. And it's unlike, a lot of what's happening in large AAA titles. This is your art house film being told through a video game.
Of course you should make a sequel. That's the way the business works, but I'm telling you, man, these guys are like punk rockers. Like they don't want to be sellouts.
It doesn't suck.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's actually pretty good, yeah.
It's a good sequel. We have told the whole story of the Hotline Miami universe.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that's in Hotline Miami 2 is actually leftovers from the first game that didn't fit, or we didn't have time to add like enemy types and characters and storyline.
Hotline Miami 2 feels intentionally kind of being a bit more meta, breaking the rules of what the player expects.
We wanted to sort of make it feel more real, create a more cohesive puzzle out of the levels.
How they sort of like wrapped everything up in the sequel is, I think it's beautiful. I mean, I'm not kissing their asses. They made one of the best games that I've played in 6 years, and they're my friends. It's fucking weird.
The first game had a different flow.
Yeah.
The second game is a much bigger challenge.
You have to multitask way more.
Yeah, and you have to understand how the level works.
You just have to use your brain.
As soon as they hit that spot where this is not the same as the first game, they just turn to, I don't like this.
I don't like it, I don't like it. Fuck you.
Dennis and Jonathan are both very sensitive dudes. Like they take every comment to heart. They really do, good or bad, but especially bad.
As an indie game label, that's only a few people, is you get really close to these developers. And you hate to see them get hurt. When you see something bad said about them on social media or in the press or whatever it is, they're talking about my friend, they're talking about my family.
It's like being in a conspiracy movie. You're being watched right now.
Everyone is so angry. I don't know why everyone is so angry all the time.
Yeah. No one has to take any responsibility for calling me a fucking stupid asshole. Yeah, you can't have any opinions anymore.
The fans and the communities feel like they're a part of the creational process, and it's almost become like the common mental state. we want it to be our way. We should be able to alter the experience in a way that we want it to be.
It's weird because we don't agree with the criticism.
No.
I don't want to change Hotline Miami 2. I'm so fucking proud of that game.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose confidence in your own taste, you can't make games anymore.
Making games is this act of passion. You get attached very easily, you get very close to the project. You lose objectivity about it very rapidly.
My advice would be to tell a story that is uniquely yours. We want to know what the project is that you would fucking crawl over broken glass to make.
I started out with the Game Maker forums, and I played a bunch of other people's games, gave them feedback, and they played my games and gave me feedback. So it was sort of like give and take relationship. You can't just put it out there and expect everyone to give you stuff, but you have to actually do something yourself as well.
The way to distribute to people is unlimited. There's nothing stopping anybody from making a game if they wanted to and getting it out to people, which is very different from how it's ever been in gaming before. Don't cater to just the market that's out there, because those needs are met.
When you first start making stuff, no matter what you're doing, like if you were making games or you're making music or you're a painter or whatever, like any sort of creative thing, the first things you make, like they're gonna suck. If I were to dig up some of the MP3s that I made when I was 13 or 14, like it is just absolute trash.
There's a lot of bad games you're gonna make. And we've made some especially bad games.
You hear a lot of people talking, saying they want to make games, but they're not actively busy doing it when there's no excuse to not to.
Like, if you want to make a game and you don't right now, you're kind of a chump.
I know they're not going to do another sequel to Hotline Miami, but I mean, whatever those dudes do in the future, I'll support 100%.
People kind of see that this is like the peak for us. Like this is everything good and a perfect like product 1 and 2. But we have more games that we want to make that's gonna be, I think, gonna be better.
Yeah.
I want Dennis and Jonathan to do their own shit, and I want to be able to still be the visual messenger between the pixels and the mental picture that people paint in their minds of what it is.
I just want to see them make more games.
I want them to make more soundtracks as well.
Yeah.
Like they should just curate my playlist. I'd be happy.
Too often in partnerships, especially when you have success, people discount too much that magic, that chemistry between the two of you. That's, you can't just snap your fingers and replicate that. So I hope Dennaton's doing this for a long time.
Hotline Miami.
It's a relentless, rhythmic, and brutal game.
We're gonna make games.
Yeah. We're gonna keep making games that we want to play. There's a lot of games I want to play.
Yeah. I don't think we actually want to collaborate with anyone. We just want to tell people what to do.
Yeah.